call it a high-level security meeting, and you may not be wrong. As President Muhammadu Buhari meets with Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum, what did they discuss and what should we expect from this? We'll take a look at the possibilities. And tonight on the program, we re-evaluate the quality of Nigeria's two main political parties, the ruling APC and opposition PDP, as we dissect their inner workings and wranglings, but more importantly, their performance ahead of 2023. Hello and welcome. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Kayode Okikolu. In exactly 29 hours, 2020 will be over and 2021 would have begun. But it will definitely take a while to recover from all that 2020 threw at us all. And who knows what 2021 has in store? Well, we remain hopeful. But hope is not a strategy, some say. So what exactly is the strategy for Nigeria, especially? Well, yesterday we looked at some of the economic strategies of this government for the new year after President Buhari met with the Presidential Economic Advisory Council. Well, today, the president held yet another meeting, but this time with the governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum. And you can imagine part of what was discussed at the meeting: security. The Borno State has been serially attacked by insurgents week after week, the latest being the killing of 7 hunters as a result of landmines planted by the insurgents in Kayamla village in Jere local government area of Borno State, about 20 kilometers from the capital, Maiduguri. The governor of the state has been quite vocal about a list of recommendations which he believes will help solve the over 1 decade-long crisis. Well, it is not clear if those recommendations were presented to the president, and if they were, what sort of commitment did the president give? Oh, by the way, there are at least 6 of those recommendations, so let's just break them down for you tonight on the program. First, on that list of recommendations made by the Borno State governor to the federal government is the recruitment of more youths into the military, especially more youths from Borno State. That was one. Second is the engagement of services of Niger, Chad and Cameroon, which are, of course, border countries in this fight against insurgency. The governor of Borno State also recommended provision of mine-resistant armored personnel carriers, the engagement of mercenaries, that's the big one which has gotten some attention in recent times, support the repatriation of IDPs in Cameroon and, of course, in Niger, and the 6th one, increase livelihood support for the people of Borno State. So at least 6 recommendations have been given by the Borno State government or governor to the president in recent time. Well, the government has insisted that Boko Haram remains technically defeated, but after a series of attacks on villages and farmers, a shadow of doubt hangs over that claim, with increasing clamor for an improvement in the security situation in the northeast and across the country. But just before we get into our major talking point for tonight, a quick update on the political maneuvers, if you may, in Rivers State. Now, following a recent Court of Appeal judgment that authenticated the Isaac Ogbobola-led APC in the state as a lawful state executive of the party, the chairman, APC Caretaker Committee in Rivers State, Isaac Ogbobola, has been speaking on several issues ranging from governance of the state under Governor Nyesom Wike, the forthcoming local government election, and the future of the party in the state. While addressing a press conference in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, Mr. Ogbobola criticized the approach by governance by Governor Wike, especially as it affects programs, policies, and human capital development. He added that the party will not participate in the forthcoming local government election in the state, as it has no trust and integrity in the Justice Omereji-led River State Independent Electoral Commission to conduct any credible election. Take a listen.
The Court of Appeal, again, in a well-considered judgment, nullified the judgment of retired Justice G.O. Omereji and stated firmly that the National Working Committee of the party has the power to appoint a caretaker committee. We commend the justices of the Court of Appeal for sending a clear message to the lower court to desist from unnecessarily meddling in the internal affairs of political parties and to stop usurping the constitutionally vested powers and functions on party organs.
Well, that's not all. In a swift reaction to all the allegations leveled against the Wike-led administration in Rivers State by the APC, the PDP State Publicity Secretary Tambari Sydney says that there's no iota of truth in all the allegations, insisting that the achievement of Governor Wike in the last 5 years in the state is therefore all to see. He maintains that Governor Wike has always practiced an open-door policy by carrying all stakeholders along in the formation of the programs and policies across the 24 local government areas.
What Isaac is just trying to, distract people into believing that is what is going on in the PDP. His Excellency runs an open government. He holds stakeholders meetings intermittently to brief leaders and stakeholders of his policies and everything that he is doing. And the stakeholders in turn make their suggestions and contributions. And I can tell you that is the reason for his success.
So that's what's playing out in Rivers State. Clearly, it's not the end of it, but we'll definitely follow that one. But now to our major talking points. Today, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says there are 18 political parties in Nigeria. But from what we've seen over time, 2 of them seem to be dominating governance. The ruling All Progressives Congress, that's the APC, and the opposition People's Democratic Party. Well, tonight we review their performance and how well they've been able to live up to the expectations of Nigerians. But let's step back a little bit. I mean, what is the purpose of political parties in a democracy, you may ask? Well, essentially, they are set up first with a philosophy. Philosophies like choosing to support businesses, labor, social issues, and the rest. That's the building block. And then they sell these ideas to people who in turn vote them into government to implement those ideas and policies that they have sold to the people. They do this through legislation and other initiatives. So political parties essentially are for the people, you and I. And if the people aren't feeling their impact, then they are deemed to have failed. Well, here in Nigeria, how well have they been able to marshal together to achieve their purpose? Well, let's find out tonight on the program. Senator Abba Ali is a member, APC National Caretaker Committee. He joins us virtually on the program tonight, as well as Senator Emmanuel Okajev, who joins us from our Abuja studio. He's a PDP chieftain and senator representing Benue State. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the program. Well, just before we get into the nitty-gritties, let me get your opening shot, gentlemen. So, broadly speaking now, as it stands, in the year 2020, can your party, and I'm beginning with the APC, can your party truly say it has lived up to the expectations of Nigerians? Because if you listen to the PDP today, for example, they say that Nigerians are fed up with your party. So, how do you respond to that? Senator Abba Ali, this is for you, by the way.
Yes. Hello, good evening.
Good evening. You know what, let me just go over the question again. I was asking, broadly speaking now, can your party, the APC, say that it has truly met the aspirations, the hopes and expectations of Nigerians for the year 2020? And I was trying to tell you that earlier today, the PDP said that Nigerians are fed up with your party. So how do you respond to that?
Well, thank you very much for the question. But, I will say loudly and without any fear that our party is going on the right path. It is only normal that a party will say anything, which is against another party. We have the majority of the states with us. Currently, we are working very hard to make sure that our party is recognized in terms of registration and re-registration, revalidation of our members. in order to give a chance to everybody in the party to have the feeling of belonging in the party.
Senator Abali, before you go to the members of your party, this question specifically says, can your party truly say it has lived up to the expectations of Nigerians? That's the first prong of this question.
The Nigerians, I'm sure, is appreciative of the efforts of our party and our government, the efforts the government has been doing towards security and other issues in this country. You are fully aware that the insecurity we inherit in this country was not the making of APC, which is the making of the other party, the PDP, when they were in power. And they didn't do anything. You can very well vividly remember the Chibok girls that has been taken away for quite months. The party did not do anything until this regime came in and then started getting back some of the people back. And the recent events, at one time, occupied 17 local governments in Borno State, and they are not occupying any state now in Borno State, any local government in Borno State. The government and the party are doing all they can to make sure that people are secured, people are taken care of, and I'm sure the person realizes that this government has done a lot and is doing a lot and will continue to do a lot to make sure that this country becomes a secured country.
Right. Well, let's bring in Senator Okajev now. I mean, you've listened to Senator Abali, but this is now about your party, the opposition, which is meant to, in some sense, present Nigerians with some sort of alternative government, or what political scientists will say, government in waiting. Your party released that statement earlier today saying that Nigerians are tired of the APC. In fact, went on to say that Nigerians have realized that the PDP is the only party that has their interests at heart. So the question will be, how did you come to that conclusion?
Okay, thank you. So in 2014, when the APC was being formed, I happened to be a member of the APC then. And Nigerians then appeared to be tired of the PDP and wanted an alternative. And APC presented that alternative. And I should say that the APC was largely formed around the personality of President Buhari, now President Buhari, because of his charisma and the promises that he made, to walk away from what the PDP then presented, having stayed in power for 16 years. And I'm no longer of the APC now, and I'm of the PDP, of course. The question is, 5 or 6 years down the line, can it be said that the APC has delivered on its promises as a viable alternative to what the PDP stood for? The answer solidly is no, because if you look at what was happening then and what is happening now, we have gone from bad to worse. And so, because we have two major parties, PDP and APC, if APC has failed, Nigerians will look up to the other party, in this case the PDP, to provide the alternative. And PDP has been priming itself. Of course, there are problems here and there, but PDP has been priming itself to take over in 2023 because of the massive failure that the APC has recorded in its 5 or so years since it came to power. It certainly cannot be said to have provided a better alternative to what PDP, was when they took over in 2016. 2014 rather, 2015, yeah.
The question really is, how did you come to that conclusion that Nigerians see the PDP as a party that has their interest at heart? I want to believe you followed the whole End SARS movement and some of the issues that came out of it. And if you did, you'll see that a lot of Nigerians, overwhelmingly perhaps, especially for most of the protesters, say that, well, we're tired of the APC and the PDP. So just from where did you get that, mindset that Nigerians are asking the PDP now to come into the fray?
Okay, so the idea of democracy is that if you are voted into power, you are supposed to provide accountability to the people at the end of the tenure. And if you refer to NSAS, NSAS is a classical example that Nigerians are certainly not satisfied with the way things are run in this country. And if that is the case, we wait for elections. I mean, we are no longer talking about military coups in this country today. So if Nigerians are dissatisfied with the way our government is being run, what is the alternative? The alternative is that we go to elections and provide, and ask for an alternative to the government that is misgoverning us. And in this case, since we have two major political parties, PDP has primed itself to provide that alternative. Having learned the lessons from the 16 years of governance and the mistakes that Nigerians, pointed out as the factors that gave rise to his being booted out of power in 2014. So I believe that between the two options, Nigerians will go for PDP because certainly the lessons have been learned. PDP has been in the lodge, so to say, since 2014, and I think they have learned their lessons and are ready to come back to power and provide a better alternative to what the APC presents today.
Well, Senator Okaje, it's interesting you're campaigning already, and we're still barely in 2020. But we'll get into all this, plans for 2023 and the talks in a moment. But we're still focusing on 2020 and just how Nigerians rate, the political parties, the ruling party, the opposition party, and even other parties that have representations across different government tiers. So let me go back to Senator Abba Ali. Apparently, I hear that you're still, giving your contribution. So let's get back to what you were speaking about earlier on. You've been talking about security, and this is just an opportunity for you to, tell Nigerians really just how well you think you have lived up to the expectations, not just security-wise. There's the area of the economy. Don't forget, fight against corruption, those 9-point agenda that your party put out. So please go ahead.
Thank you very much. You are very well aware that in 2015, when this government came in, things Nigeria was almost down. With all the money that PDP got when the crude oil was 140 at the time they left the office, and suddenly when the APC came into the power, price of oil dropped to $30 per barrel. But still yet, with the effort of this government, blocking chances, having a single treasury account, making all these corruption activities, they were able to produce a budget of 7 trillion, which the previous government has never ever been so. With all the money they have got, you have the details of everything. I don't have to tell you all that. And then again, when we came in 2015, the country was unsecured. The Boko Haram was all over in the northeast. We have taken over 17 local governments in northwest, as far as Kano, Katsina, part of Katsina, and in Gusau and other places. They are all there operating. President woke up and fought against them. And now Boko Haram is silenced. When the problem of us Nigerians is we don't appreciate what we have done. We don't compare what was there. The PDP, when they took over, the Boko Haram issue was there, started in their own time for about over a year. They didn't do anything until this government came in and rescued these Chibok girls. And the other thing we are facing in this country, we don't realize the efforts because we can take an example of other countries where insecurity is there. We can see, we can compare with Afghanistan, with Syria, and other things.
Okay, Senator Ali.
Within a short period of time.
Please if you can hold your thoughts for a moment, we're due for our break right now. We'll come back to some of the issues you have raised and speak about specific issues that came up in 2020, because that's what we're reviewing. Because a lot of Nigerians will tell you, if they see the results, then really, what's the fuss about? So we'll ask about these results, some of the internal issues in the party, and of course, we'll look ahead of 2023. That's in a moment, so please stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. Let's get back to our discussion. We're still reviewing the year 2020, but this time from the political party's perspective. And we're going to be getting another perspective, this one from, you could call it a neutral party, a political and socio-cultural organization. So let's get back to our guest tonight on the program. Senator Abba Ali is a member, APC National Caretaker Committee. He joins us from the phone from Katsina State. And Senator Emmanuel Okajev, PDP Chieftain, joins us from our Abuja studio. So let's try to tie together this, political talk and the performance of the political parties. Well, Senator Abba Ali, you were making some points before we went on that break. But add to this the fact that in the year 2020, your party lost Edo State, lost a governor, essentially, to the PDP. In the same year, you sacked your chairman, and then there was a caretaker committee that was put in place. But even at that, there were people against the elongation of the tenure of the caretaker committee, and there's still a lot of issues around that. And a lot of Nigerians will tell you that if you don't sort what's happening inside the party, how well can you sort what's happening in the country at large? So the question will be, how close are you, because you're a member of the caretaker committee anyway, just how close are you to resolving those issues?
You see, I'm sure you are fully aware when the NEC decided that they will reconcile with people in the party, and then they will reorganize registration or revalidation of the party memberships because of so many complaints from other people saying that they are not being taken care of or they are not being utilized as party members or they are denied other issues. So the party decided that they should set up, because they listen to the yearnings of the people, the NEC decided that they should set up a caretaker committee to look into all this, the reconciliation, the re-registration or revalidation of the members, so that at least the people will have the feeling of being a party member. They have the feeling that the party is theirs by the people, and then they are free to elect their leadership. They are free to elect their representatives in all categories, so that people will now have the feeling that the party is the party of the people. So we are reorganizing, and in our constitution we are supposed to be revalidating our membership every 6 months, which has not been done. So that's why we are doing all this registration and validation of the party. Mm-hmm. And we have gone far. At the end of this exercise, I'm sure you will see that this APC is the only party of the people, for the people, by the people, so that they feel free that they can elect and be elected in any position within the party.
But it's
yes.
Right. I'm just curious to know, really, because questions abound. For example, one of the resolutions from that meeting is the expulsion of the former national vice chairman of the party, Mr. Hilliard Etta. And people are wondering, if this is meant to be a reconciliation process, why expel him? Isn't this going to further fraction your party?
I beg your pardon. The former Vice Chairman of the party, what?
Can you hear me?
No, I can't. Repeat what you said.
I said that one of the resolutions from that meeting which you had just a few weeks back was the expulsion of the former national vice chairman of your party, Mr. Hilliard Etta. And people are thinking, if you're meant to reconcile the party, why take that step?
No, I don't know about that. Which former vice chairman of the party are you talking about?
Mr. Hilliard Etta.
Who?
Can you hear me? We'll try to solve the audio issues and we'll get you to respond to that question. But let's take this back to Senator Okajev in Abuja and discuss some of the issues in his party, because it's not just the APC. The PDP has also had its fair share of issues. So you may have gained a governor, Senator Okajev, but you also lost a governor. Governor Dave Mai of Ebonyi State. But that's not all. You also lost some high-ranking party members. Take, for example, at least 8 PDP members have defected to the APC, including former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, a former PDP national chairman, former senator. In fact, you had a sitting senator, Senator Elisha Abu, also defecting, as well as some other lawmakers defecting to the APC, and a lot of them actually cite irreconcilable differences. The governor of Ebonyi State cited unfair treatment, really. And the question is, with these defections, how strong is your party now?
Well, I can't sit here and pretend that everything is fine with the PDP or any other party for that matter. But I'm not unduly worried about defections in our polity. They happen all the time, and I assure you that they will happen again. And at the end of the day, it's not only PDP that will lose members. The APC too will lose members. You know how our polity operates like. And so, but the PDP is the first to admit that all is not well, in the family. And that's why the Saraki reconciliation panel has been put up, and they will do the needful, and I think at the end of the day, reconciliations will be done, not expulsions like others are doing. And but let me just say this. It is the APC that is on the hot seat. Whatever PDP may have done or not done while they were in power, it is now the time to put APC on the spot, because they took over making a lot of promises. And the question to ask from Nigerians is, have they fulfilled on their promises? I don't think they have. And so they must be put on the spot. They can't continually begin to talk about what PDP did or did not do in their 16 years in power. That is why they took over. They took over to make the lives of Nigerians better. If you look at the Constitution in Section 12, subsection 2B, it says the primary responsibility of government is the security and welfare of the people. That is the section of the Constitution by which any government will be judged by, whether they have failed or succeeded. Are Nigerians better now in terms of security and welfare of the people than they were maybe 5 years back? The answer is a resounding no. So they have to live with that and explain to Nigerians what they have done vis-a-vis the promises that they made when they were asking for votes to take over in 2015.
Well, let's broaden this conversation and bring in someone who represents not a political party, but a political and cultural organization. That's the Arawa Consultative Forum. And we have joining us tonight on the program, Mr. Emmanuel Waye, who is the National Publicity Secretary of Arawa Consultative Forum. He joins us from our Abuja studios. Good evening, and thank you for your patience. You've listened to both the ruling party and the opposition party speak about their performance, as it were, in 2020. In fact, going as far back as 2015 and before 2015. But as a political and cultural organization of leaders from the northern region of the country, how would you assess political class, especially the APC and the PDP, for this year?
In the Arawa Consultative Assembly or Forum, we have all the political parties. All the political parties are members of ACF, Arawa Consultative Forum. So we don't take sides. when they are fighting. They are all our members. Arewa Consultative Forum is different from the other cultural political organizations. Some of them are purely tribal organizations. Some are ethnic, or some, reduce the whole thing to genealogy and biology. No, we accommodate everybody who comes from the north. That is the difference between us. And we accommodate all the political viewpoints of the north. So we don't get into fights between APC and PDP. If not, ACF will split within a day. The day we start getting involved in APC, PDP, there will be no ACF again. You see, but we are concerned about developments. We are concerned that some of us were too young during the First Republic. That's quite okay. But in the Second Republic, some of us played some roles, even if they were some peripheral roles. We were involved in operating the 1979 Constitution. Like in my own case, I worked with Adekunle Ajasin, who was governor of Ondo State. Between 79 and 80, I worked very closely with him. After that, I worked with Alhaji Bamanga Tukuru, who was governor of Gongola State. That one was only for 3 months before the military came and chased all of us away. But you see the difference between the Second Republic and what we have today is that you knew what the UPS stood for. Free education, this, free medical care, free this and free that. You knew the philosophies and programs of that party. You also knew that the MPN stood for food and housing. Those were the major points of the MPN program. And they did not only use these programs as slogans. When they were in government, they tried to implement these programs. In Yola, if you go to Yola today, you know there's Jimeta, there's Yola. Shehu Shagari launched his housing program in Yola. That housing estate is still there. They call it Shagari Estate. And all over the country, where every state you went to, or if you go to, up to now, those houses are still there. I'm not praising the MPN government, but they did some things that reflected what their party preached.
So are you saying that the current political class, pardon me, are you saying that the current political class lacks such philosophy?
They don't have. Can you easily identify APC with a policy the same way we identified UPN with free education, free medical care, free everything? It was so easy in those days to identify a political party with a program. These days, you cannot identify any political party with any program. I'm happy that the distinguished senator himself here confessed that it is normal that people jump from one political party to another. They change. He himself changed from APC to PDP now, you know. It's because there's no binding philosophy in the political parties. The people just use, politicians just use them as platforms. They don't believe in the political parties.
Mm. Let's get Senator Okajev's response to that issue you raised.
That's why we have so much political confusion.
Mm. Let's get his response to that issue you raised before we talk about the Northern agenda and some of the issues you're facing, like security and the rest. Well, Senator Okajev, he has talked about philosophy. I mean, you were someone who was in the APC, now you're in the PDP. So in terms of philosophy, if you could maybe help Nigerians understand, is there a philosophy in the PDP?
Well, unfortunately, I have to agree with him that, you know, what we have presently is not like when you get to America, somebody belongs to the Democratic Party, you immediately know what he stands for, or he goes to the Republican Party, you know what he stands for. Unfortunately, that is not so. Even though we have a manifesto and, you know, some things have been scripted there, every party has. But in terms of commitment, when we get to governance, I'm sorry to say that is not exactly the case. That is not exactly the case. And that is why it's very easy for people to jump from one party to another, because they take them as platforms to win elections or to you know, to associate, especially when things are not going well. So I can't in all good conscience disagree with that position that he has stated.
But when you go through the manifesto of the People's Democratic Party, what do you go away with? Yes, there might not be a philosophy expressly written there, but what is the core of the party?
You see, it is not. Remember when I think it was during Abacha's transition when Bola Ige was said to have described them as 5 leprous fingers of the same hand. And so it is not what is written there, it's the commitment that any organization has to the manifesto or the philosophies that they have written that we should talk about, okay? Because at the end of the day, I think Bola Ige was said to have written more than one constitution more than one political party's constitution. And so in that case, what does that speak to? One person writing constitution of more than one political party. That is the kind of situation that we have, and that is until we get to a situation where a party is identified with what it stands for, not just in the written document, but when they get to government, what they do, until we get to that stage, I think we'll continue to have a situation where people decamp from one and at the drop of a hat. That is the situation that we have on our hand.
Well, Senator Abali, let's get your thoughts on this. Your party has been a major beneficiary of this defection, and for a lot of Nigerians, there isn't any difference between the APC and the PDP. But if you can just maybe put in some word for your party, is there a philosophy to the APC, and what is it?
APC, in its next level, they promised these Nigerians security situation to be improved in the country or to bring down Boko Haram completely. As I said earlier on that the aspect of security we have done, the party has, the government has done a lot in bringing down the security threat in this country. And again, if we take into the consideration of economic development of the country, the little we have has been, prudently utilized to make sure that we give better services to Nigerians. Taking an example of when the government of General Muhammad Buhari came into power in 2015, his first budget was 7 trillion, which was much higher than the former government's budget. This year, the budget is about 10 trillion. And all that, most of it goes to services to Nigerians. What we don't appreciate is this government has introduced a lot of incentives to Nigerians, more especially those who are disabled or those who are disturbed by Boko Haram and so on and so forth.
Well, Senator Ali, pardon me for butting in, but I mean, the question is about the philosophy, and I expect it to be maybe a sentence or, a few key areas that will be pointed to. But you've tried to talk about what this government has done in recent times. But now that you can hear me, let me just quickly go back to that previous question I asked you before we go on our break in about a minute. I was asking about, the reconciliation process in the APC and the expulsion of the former national vice chairman of the party, Mr. Hilliard Etta. And I was asking if this was done in good faith, especially because the mandate of the committee is to try and reconcile the party.
We had been, the expulsion of the former vice chairman, as you know, has been done according to the law, according to the constitution of the party. So there's nothing, we are a party of strict adherence to the rules and of the party, and so anybody that has misbehaved or whatever it is, has to be taken. The issue has to be taken, whether it is good for him or bad for him or whatever. But all we are concerned is about the progress of the party and the fairness in the party. So I think what has been done, was right.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. We're due for another break, but when we return, how would you rate the political class if you don't talk security, if you don't talk the economy? So when we return from this break, we're going to be touching on that really and seeing how well the political parties have done in that area. So please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Let's rejoin our guests tonight on the program. On this final lap, we have Senator Abali, a member of the APC National Caretaker Committee, joining us from Katsina State. Senator Okajev Emmanuel is a PDP chieftain. He joins us from our Abuja studio. And right next to him is Mr. Emmanuel Waye, National Publicity Secretary, Arewa Consultative Forum. Gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us. So let me begin with Mr. Waye. For the northern region, you have been at the receiving end of this insecurity situation in the country, perhaps more than other regions, really, especially in the year 2020. In fact, for previous years as well. And some say the problem is leadership, leadership, leadership. We saw earlier today that the president met with the governor of Borno State. But for the ACF, really, what is the thinking, the latest thinking regarding the insecurity situation in the region?
If you watch the words of our chairman, Chief Audwogwe, when he went to Maiduguri, after 40-something people were slaughtered like sheep, he said, we are distressed. We are very, very distressed and depressed. And every northerner who is not depressed and distressed is not a true northerner. He's not well born. Those were the words he used. We feel really sad. Some of us, even personally, not the ACF generally, some of us even personally, because when the elections were to be conducted in 2015, the two principal candidates were Goodluck Jonathan and President Muhammadu Buhari. And some of us looked at the two candidates. What was disturbing the North then, all over the North, there was this feeling of insecurity. Not only Borno, all over the North. Plateau, Benue, all over the North. There was a feeling of insecurity. So when we looked at these two candidates, we said, well, Jonathan was a university lecturer before he went into politics. He was lucky, he became local government chairman, he became governor of a state, first deputy governor, and then he became governor of a state. He became vice president and became president, all by luck. His name stuck to him. But Buhari was a general who fought in the war to keep Nigeria one in the 60s and 70s. And then he was a head of state, a military head of state. And some of us even had personal testimonies to give. I remember I was a reporter with New Nigerian Newspapers in 1983 when some Chadians invaded Nigeria and took some of Nigerian land. As a young man then in my 20s, I was sent to cover him. And he did very well. He chased away those rascals, chased them and almost got to N'Djamena even before President Shehu Shagari, who was commander-in-chief, knew that his troops were fighting a war with another country. And we were impressed with this. We said, this is the man who is going to secure Nigeria. But what has happened? On a daily basis, when we hold our meetings in Kaduna, we keep receiving reports from all the states. Every state is complaining. Insecurity, insecurity. Every state in the north is not secured. Is it not the man we had so much faith in? If he couldn't do any other thing, at least he will be able to secure the north and the country.
So I just wonder.
We are very, very depressed. We are very sad. In the ACF, nobody is happy.
Do you still have faith?
I can tell you that.
Mr. Waye, so you said you had faith.
Because of what has been happening to our people.
Right, you said you had faith in the president prior to this time. But as it stands right now, do you still have faith in the president?
What can I say? You have seen what has been happening to our people. I used to drive from Maiduguri, sometimes to Sokoto, alone in the car, sometimes at night. Sometimes I'll leave Yola and get to Ukari at 12 midnight. Nothing will happen to me. Even at the worst of days, in Abacha days, when there was fear of Abacha and everything, I used to drive at night all over the north. There's no part of this north that I have not been to or I have not worked as a journalist. I've never felt unsafe like the way I feel now. I can't go to my home state of Taraba. The whole place is in chaos. They are killing people every day. That one is not publicized because there's no oil in Taraba, because whatever, for whatever reason, it's not publicized. But all over the north, there's insecurity.
Well, Mr. Wire, you didn't quite answer my question.
Who is presiding over this type of thing, and you are asking me whether I have faith in him.
So you didn't quite answer the question. Just before I bring in our other panelists, do you have faith in the president still?
I say, how can I have faith in somebody who presides over this kind of thing? This state of affairs.
Well, let's get Senator Abba Ali to respond.
I had faith in him when I followed him as a reporter, and he chased away some foreigners who were calling to kill us. And when he was coming to be president, I had faith in him because I witnessed him. Then my mates who left secondary school and joined the military were captains and majors. They smuggled me in to be embedded with them. I witnessed it with my very eyes in 1983, how successful this man was in chasing away enemies to our country.
Well, let's bring in...
when I had faith in him, absolute faith.
Let's bring in Senator Abba Ali to sort of respond.
People kidnapped.
Mr. Wai.
In his home state.
Just a moment. Let's get Senator Abba Ali to respond. Now, you've listened to Mr. Wai asking, why would he still have faith in the president? And I imagine he's not the only one thinking that way. So how do you convince them, really, to keep faith in the president?
Hi.
Yes, that's for you, Senator Abba Ali. And please don't listen to your TV. Just listen to me directly.
Do I answer that question?
Yes, it's for you.
Okay.
Senator Ali, if you can hear me.
Yes, I
please
can hear you. I have every confidence in my president. I know he can...
Please go ahead.
Yes, I can. I said I have every confidence in the president and he will deliver. Yes.
Well, the question is, how do you convince people that ask, how can I have faith in the president to have faith in them? Well, for you, you say you have faith in the president, but how do you convince those who don't?
I think you better go back to the grassroots and find out what the people feel about Mr. President. They know that Mr. President is doing a good job. They know that Mr. President is working very hard to secure this country. And they know that very well that there are some political interest in some of these intrigues or insecurity in the country. And people are appreciating what he's doing. So I have every confidence. I know the general public as a grassroots, not... the Latin people, in cities and so on and so forth, know what he has been doing.
Okay. Well, Senator Okajev, as we wind down now, let me just get your closing thoughts. We're closing in about a minute. You've listened to both submissions from Mr. Wai and Senator Ali regarding the security situation. You also are in touch with the grassroots. So, really, what do you think is the way forward?
Well, I quoted, a while back, I quoted Section 12, subsection 2B of the Constitution that says the welfare and security of the people should be the primary responsibility of government. And so when you have, like I come from Benue, and the situation has come, security situation in Benue has calmed down a little bit, but you still have a lot of people still living in IDP camps. for them, and most of these people are not even politicians, so it doesn't matter to them whether it's PDP or APC. All they want is to live their normal lives, go to the farm. Benue is an agricultural state. All they want is to, go to the farms and produce, get their produce and live their own normal lives. And when that is not guaranteed them, you certainly cannot expect. So, as a government, of course, you could say I'm part of the government. As a government, but the president is the #1 citizen of this country, and the buck rests at his, or stops at his table. So, he has the responsibility to ensure that Nigerians, wherever they are, have a sense of security and welfare in order to carry on with their daily livelihood. When that is not guaranteed, I bet you, I mean, they will not be satisfied. Forget about what the political class may say. You could say that where the political class is because of politics.
Right. But I'd like to thank you so much, Senator Emmanuel Okajeva, PDP Chieftain, and Senator representing Benue State. Thank you so much for your time, as well as Mr. Emmanuel Waye, who's the National Publicity Secretary of Arewa Consultative Forum. We appreciate your thoughts on the program, and not forgetting Senator Abba Ali, member APC National Caretaker Committee. We also appreciate you. Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Kayode Kikilu. Have a good night.